Council, are we ready for the jury?
Yes.
Please stand for the jury.
Please be seated. The record will show the presence of the jury, the defendant, and all counsel. Mr. Nermer, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Arias, before the break, we were talking about this weekend you were spending with Travis and his friends, Chris and Sky Hughes. And specifically, you were talking about the first time you kissed Mr. Alexander. And that was, to my understanding, that was in the room that you were in at the Hughes home. Is that right?
Yes, the bedroom that I was assigned.
Okay. Tell us, you mentioned him coming over, but just kind of describe for us, him coming to your room, just kind of describe for us what happened. Did he knock on the door? Did he walk in? Just kind of walk us through that.
Before going to bed, he said, I'll come in there in a little bit after they shut their door and go into their bedroom and go to sleep. I guess, I don't know. Well, he wanted to wait until they were in their bedroom. So I left the door cracked because I figured we were just going to...
All right, Ms. Arias, some of the jurors are having difficulty hearing you.
Oh, sorry. I'll try to speak up. He came into my room at that point, and we started kissing. We sat down on the bed and started kissing. And
Was there conversation first, or did he just come in and start kissing you?
there was no conversation. I thought there was going to be, but there was no conversation.
Sustained.
Did you anticipate that his sole purpose of coming in the room was to kiss you?
Not his sole purpose, but I had a pretty good idea that it might lead to that.
The word kiss or kissing could be taken a whole bunch of different ways. Could relate to a simple peck on the cheek to something much more intimate. Could you describe for us the way that he was kissing you?
Yeah, it was more passionate. It wasn't just regular kissing. It was passionate, like French kissing.
Okay. Was he touching you?
Yeah, I don't really recall the specifics, but we were getting intimate. We were making out, basically.
And what do you mean by intimate? That could also mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So describe for us what you mean by you were getting intimate.
Well, at that point, we were laying on the bed. We were side by side, facing each other, kissing. That's what I mean by intimate at that point.
Was he touching any particular parts of your body, or were you just kissing?
I don't really recall that at first. It began to lead to more.
And what do you mean by more?
Well, I don't really recall how it happened, but he began to remove my clothes.
And do you recall what you were wearing when he began to remove your clothes?
I was in pajamas of some kind, I think sweats and a t-shirt.
Okay. And this Him taking off your clothes, was that something you were expecting to take place?
No, I thought we were going to kiss, and maybe heavily, but that would be the extent of it, since this was the first time we were kissing.
When he began to remove your clothing, was that then surprising to you?
It was, well, yeah, it was a little surprising, but it was more, I felt apprehensive, but I was going with it.
What do you mean you felt apprehensive?
Well, I wasn't expecting that, so I didn't want to tell him no, so I just kept going with it.
Why didn't you want to tell him no?
I didn't want to do anything that would maybe displease him, not because I feared like he would get angry or anything, but I didn't want him to feel rejected, and I didn't want him to get his feelings hurt, or I didn't want to spoil the mood, sort of like that. We were getting along, we had some kind of chemistry. I just didn't want to like snuff it out right then by saying stop, I guess. That was my thought.
Why would rejecting him at that point in time be such a big deal to you?
At that point in time, I was not really accustomed to saying no. I have a lot more backbone now than I used to. It was hard for me to tell somebody no. So even though it was uncomfortable, I just kept going with it.
So the discomfort you were feeling in having your clothes removed was less burdensome to you than the discomfort you would feel saying no. Is that what we're hearing?
Overruled.
I can't really say one way or another because I wouldn't know because I couldn't make the comparison, but at the time it felt more uncomfortable to push him off of me or something. I mean, he wasn't aggressive, but he was definitely doing the initiating at that point, and I just kept going for it.
Did he, on this occasion, wind up removing your clothes?
Yes.
All your clothes?
Yes.
At this point in time, was Mr. Alexander dressed?
Yes.
Did that change?
Not really. I think he kept his garments on that he was wearing.
And you say garments. What are you referring to?
Garments they're called temple garments, and it's like a t-shirt and underwear, kind of like briefs. They're sort of an off-white color.
Is that what he came in wearing, or just those, or was he wearing other things?
No, he had his temple garments on under, I think, sweats. I don't remember if he had just the shirt, but I think he was wearing pajamas over those.
Okay. And whatever else he was wearing over his garments, did he take those items off, or did you?
I don't recall. I know I didn't.
Okay.
It might have been a joint effort, but I didn't solely remove them or anything like that. I don't really remember.
So after you are undressed and Mr. Alexander is in his undergarments, what happened?
This is embarrassing.
I'm going to check. Just ask what happened. Not working.
Sustained.
Is it embarrassing for you to talk about this?
Objection.
Overruled.
Yes.
I understand how it might be, but it's important to share this with us. So if you could, please tell us what happened next.
He began to perform oral sex on me.
And was this comfortable? You mentioned earlier that you had a certain level of discomfort with this act, the being naked. Were you uncomfortable while this oral sex was going on?
I was uncomfortable. It was dark. I mean, the lights were off, so like that might have made it a little bit more. I mean, a little more tolerable. But it was. I don't know. I mean, he knew what he was doing for sure, but it was just. It felt like too much too soon, and I mean, I couldn't exactly rewind at that point. You know.
Why not? Did you voice your displeasure with the events?
No, I can't say that it was displeasure, but it was uncomfortable. Does that make
Okay,
sense?
well, let me rephrase my question then. Did you voice your discomfort to him?
No, I didn't want to give him that impression.
Jesse, you spoke.
Why not?
Sustained.
Why not, Ms. Arias?
Why not? What? I'm sorry.
Why didn't you voice your discomfort?
I didn't want him to have that impression. I wanted to at least appear like I was enjoying it as much as he seemed to be.
So you were attempting to give him the impression that you were enjoying things.
Yes.
And why were you interested in doing that?
I guess it would have seemed to me to be unattractive for me to say anything different or anything negative about the experience.
Okay. What happened after he performed oral sex upon you?
He asked for reciprocation.
And how did that request make you feel?
At that point, I had taken it that far. I was kind of glad he was done, and I was just willing to reciprocate at that point.
Okay. And so we're clear when you say reciprocate, does that mean perform oral sex upon him?
Yes.
And did he remove his garments at that time, or how did that occur?
I don't know if the garments at the bottom came all the way off or just pushed down. The shirt remained on, and yeah.
And yeah, what?
Yeah, I don't remember what happened with the bottom. I think they obviously came down some. I don't know if they came all the way off or not. I can't remember.
Okay. Did you perform oral sex upon him at that time?
Yes.
Did he ejaculate?
Yes.
Where?
In my mouth.
What happened after he ejaculated?
I think we fell asleep. I don't recall getting dressed again. I don't even recall getting with blankets, but when I woke up, we were both covered with blankets.
Okay. You were both in the same bedroom on your bed?
Yes.
And were you dressed?
When I woke up, not initially, but I put my pajamas back on.
What happened next?
I don't remember what time we woke up, but it was before everyone else did. I remember falling asleep. I think he might have woken up because I woke up and he got dressed and left the room.
And from what you told us earlier, this incident occurred Saturday night, and the next morning would have been Sunday morning, the day you were to go to church. Is that correct?
Yes.
What happened from that point in time on?
Do you mean that morning?
Yes. When you were telling us how he eventually left, you got dressed and left your bedroom. What happened from that point?
Basically, the rest of the household began to wake up. I hadn't been to church since I was about 11, so I didn't really have church clothes. I bought 2 dresses before heading out there. I asked Sky which one would be more appropriate. So then I put on an outfit, and the rest of the household was getting ready for church. And then we took separate cars. I took my car. I think Travis rode with me on that one over, and I can't remember who else rode with me. Maybe it was Jeff. And the Hugheses took their own vehicle.
And what was the service like? Was there a particular subject matter of the service that day?
I don't recall exactly what was said, but I do remember that one of the speakers was Sky's brother, Zion, who had just gotten back from his mission, so he was giving a talk related to maybe something related. I don't remember the topic.
Something related to what?
It would have been related to his topic, but because when you speak in church, you're given a topic to talk about, and I don't recall what the subject matter was, but he was speaking from the podium.
Prior to going to church, did you and Mr. Alexander speak about this incident the night before?
No.
Did you speak about the incident that day after church?
No.
What happened after the church services?
We had the church service, and I rode back. Well, I drove back in my car. Travis rode shotgun. Jeff was behind me, and Sky was behind Travis. We were driving back, and she found, in the back of my seat, she found a portfolio of my photography, and she was flipping through it. And there was a photograph of Daryl in that photo that I had taken a headshot of him kind of growling at the camera. He looked gruff, and he was unshaven, and it was in black and white. It looked really cool, and she showed it to Travis. So that was the first time Travis saw Daryl. So that was, I don't know, I kind of lost track of the question, I'm sorry.
Okay. Did you, before you left, I assume from what you're telling us before, that you left the Hughes' home on Sunday, that Sunday, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Before leaving, and by leaving the Hughes' home, you were going to return to Palm Desert, right?
Yes.
Were you ever alone with Mr. Alexander prior to you leaving the home? From the time you went to church to the time you left the home, were the two of you ever alone together?
Not that I recall. Everyone was home.
So you didn't have a chance to speak about this incident with him then, is that correct?
I may have had an opportunity if I'd wanted to pull him aside, but it was not discussed.
Okay. When you left the home, how did you and Travis part ways? Were you expecting to call each other, or what was the...
He walked me out to my car and kissed me, and I got in the car and drove off.
Okay. Back to Palm Desert.
Yeah, I stopped and got gas, and I think I went to Starbucks, and then I went back to
Okay.
Palm Desert.
All right. When did you next hear from Mr. Alexander?
I would say it would either have been that night or Monday night.
Okay. And how did you what was the means that you conducted or contacted Mr. Alexander? Did he call you? Was it in person?
We were calling each other back and forth at that point, so I don't remember who called who. But it was over the phone.
Okay. When you spoke, was there conversation related to this incident that evening?
There may have been some reference to it, but we mostly talked about church, and he wanted to know how I liked it.
Okay. At this point in time, when you returned from Palm Desert, you've been to church. Have any religious officials from the Mormon Church contacted you at this point in time?
No, not yet.
When did that occur?
Well, Travis gave me a Book of Mormon on Wednesday, and I think around that same time he contacted the church, and I don't know how it works, but he gave them my information so that some missionaries in that area could come to my house.
You mentioned Travis gave you a Book of Mormon on Wednesday. Was this the Wednesday following the Sunday that you left the Hugheses?
Yes.
And where did you see Mr. Alexander on Wednesday?
He was leaving Riverside and driving back to Mesa, and Palm Desert is on that stretch. It's on the I-10. And he called me on the way and wanted to meet with me so that he could give me a copy of the Book of Mormon. And I agreed to meet with him. I didn't really know where we could meet, though, because Daryl was home and I didn't want to bring some guy over.
So where did you wind up meeting
we-
Mr. Alexander?
We ended up meeting at a Starbucks, which was near my house.
Okay. And is this where he gave you the Book of Mormon?
Yes.
Did you have a conversation at this Starbucks?
Yes.
And what was the subject matter of this conversation?
He didn't give me the Book of Mormon right away. He had Napoleon with him, which was his dog. He's a black pug on a leash, and I don't remember where Napoleon was, but we went inside the store to get drinks.
Question not responsive. She was asked what was the subject.
I'm sorry.
Sustained.
Okay. You're in the Starbucks. He has his dog with him. What is the subject matter of the conversation inside the Starbucks?
The word of wisdom, but we were sitting outside in the
Okay.
shade. It was a little hot, but it was still it was cooler in the shade.
Okay. So you were at the Starbucks, just sitting outside. You were talking about the word of wisdom, right?
Yes.
Okay. And for those of us who are not familiar, what is to your understanding at that point in time, what is the word of wisdom?
The word of wisdom is LDS doctrine that states it prohibits the consumption of coffee, tea, alcohol, tobacco, and illegal drugs.
Do those same words relate to the vow of chastity, or is that something completely different?
The law of chastity is different from the word of wisdom.
Okay.
They're two separate commandments.
After the two of you were at Starbucks, outside, what happens next?
Well, we discussed the word of wisdom a little more because he was drinking chai iced tea. But he said that doesn't count, and I asked him why, and he explained his reasons. I was drinking a latte, an iced latte, and so as our conversation progressed, it sort of moved into a more, I don't know how to explain it, but basically he expressed that he was horny, is what he said.
Okay. And once he made this expression, did you remain at the Starbucks or did you go elsewhere?
Well, he said, I wish there was somewhere we can go, and I said, I'm sorry.
Sustained.
We both were trying to figure out a place where we could go. So I don't know why, but I was wanting to go with him also to find someplace. So we went in our respective cars. We drove to a park near Starbucks. It was between my house and Starbucks, and it was the middle of a school day, so nobody was there. There was a parking lot there, and we pulled up into the parking lot, and he left Napoleon in the car with the air conditioner on and the windows rolled up, and he came into my car and sat in the passenger seat.
And after he sat in the passenger seat, you mentioned that he expressed that he was, to use your words, horny, right?
Yes.
What was the point of him getting in your car at the park, to your understanding?
I didn't know at first. I mean, my car was very...
Objection, none of this cars. She has the point.
I did not know the point of that.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't know what he was expecting.
Ms. Arias, wait for a question.
I apologize.
When he got in the car, did he voice or convey an interest in engaging in some sort of sexual activity with you in the car?
Yes.
What sort of activity, to your understanding, was he interested in?
Oral sex.
And so we're clear, was that oral sex that you were to be performing on him or him performing on you?
He wanted to receive it.
Did you comply?
Yes.
Why?
I felt an attraction to him, and the feeling was mutual, and I wanted to do what he wanted to do.
You wanted to do what he wanted to do.
Yes.
Objection, me.
Why?
I liked him.
Prior to, in between the first incident and the home of Chris and Sky Hughes, where oral sex took place, and the time that you were in the park, you had conversed with Mr. Alexander a few times, correct?
Yes.
During those conversations, did you ever voice your discomfort about what happened that Saturday night in the Hughes home?
No, I didn't.
Did oral sex take place in your car?
Yes.
Did he ejaculate?
Yes.
Where?
I don't remember, actually.
Okay. After he ejaculated, what happened from that point on?
He fixed the visor mirror and pulled his pants back up.
What do you mean he fixed the visor mirror?
He had it flipped. Well, when I started, he flipped the visor down and angled the mirror, I guess, to get
When you started what?
oral sex.
What happened then after he fixed the mirror? Did you guys hang out for a longer, go to the park? What did you do?
No, I guess I was under the impression that we were,
Objection, non responsive. What did you do?
Sustained.
What did you do? What happened?
we parted ways.
What's that?
We parted ways.
Immediately? Within minutes?
Yes.
How did you feel after that encounter?
I don't recall feeling really bad. Maybe just a little deflated. He refused to kiss me afterward because he said it was gross. Maybe that's because I was just performing oral sex, but that's what he said. And so he kissed me on the cheek and left.
And I know this might be hard for you, but I kind of want you to address my question. How did you feel afterwards?
Ask and answer improper question as to how counsel could possibly know how she feels.
Approach, please.
After Mr. Alexander departed, how did you feel about the fact that you had just performed oral sex upon him?
I felt a little disappointed with myself, but it's hard to describe. Like, I was attracted to him, he was attracted to me. He obviously derived a lot of pleasure from that, so that I took as a good sign. But again, I was just thinking it was a little bit too much too soon. I've been intimate before, but not that quickly.
So you were disappointed in yourself being that intimate that early on in your relationship?
Yeah, it wasn't so much the intimacy, but the rapidness, the timing, I guess you could say. And I'd been with Daryl 4.5 years, so he was the only person I'd known for that time. So this was somewhat foreign, but just, but it was, but it wasn't, if that makes sense.
Okay. To clarify too, at this point in time, this encounter in the park, were you in love with Mr. Alexander?
No.
After he departed, what did you do?
I drove home and got ready for work. He left me a voicemail
Okay. On your cell phone or on a
Yes.
home phone?
on my cell phone.
Okay. And what was the subject matter of that voicemail?
He was expressing his thoughts.
Objection, hearsay. What was the subject matter?
I'm not sure how to answer that question. The incident, I guess, would be the
Objection.
subject
There's
matter.
a question before her.
When you're talking about the subject matter was the oral sex that just took place?
Objection, me.
Yes or no?
Yes, I guess.
And if you can characterize it, was he expressing happiness, gratitude about the event?
I wouldn't characterize it that way.
How would you characterize it?
I'm not sure how.
How would you characterize it?
I would say that he was I'm trying to think how to characterize it without saying what he said.
Well, let me ask you this. Did he voice displeasure with what took place?
He voiced displeasure with himself.
Okay. Was that related to the fact that this incident took place, or how he treated you?
Both.
Okay. You received this voicemail before you went to work that day, right?
I think I received it while I was working.
Okay. Do you recall, were you working an evening shift, or do you recall what hours you were working?
I was working afternoon, evening.
And at this point in time, you were living a home in the Palm Desert home by yourself. Is that right?
Daryl was still there. We were in separate bedrooms at all times at that point.
Okay. Were you and Daryl at a place where you were friends, friendly, or was it a caustic environment?
It was not caustic. It was friendly, just no longer intimate.
Okay. Did you wind up speaking, when was the next time after this incident in the car that you wound up speaking to Mr. Alexander?
It would have either been that night or the following night.
You mentioned a voicemail where he was somewhat, I guess, apologetic for how he treated you and what took place. Did you ever...
Objection, leaving as soon as facts not evidence. That's not what you said.
She just testified that that's exactly what he's expressed.
Finish your question.
Were you given the opportunity to, or I should say this way, did you ever take advantage of the opportunity to express your displeasure or discomfort with what had been taking place sexually in your relationship?
Yes, somewhat.
What do you mean by somewhat?
I sent him a response in response to his voicemail.
Okay.
I sent him an email.
Okay. After this encounter in the car, are you still speaking with Mr. Alexander? How frequently are you speaking to Mr. Alexander?
Almost every night.
And are these quick conversations or these extensive conversations?
These are long conversations, hours.
Are these conversations, I understand that each one's probably somewhat unique, but were they spiritual in nature?
Yes, they were spiritual.
Were they sexual in nature?
Yes. Flirty, I'd say.
Okay. Flirty?
Yes.
Okay. And when was the next time, and Mr. Alexander, to your understanding, was still living in Mesa, right?
Yes.
When was the next point in time that you saw Mr. Alexander?
It would have been in October
October of
2006.
2006. Okay. And when did this meeting take place?
I don't remember the exact date. There are photos
Okay.
with the dates,
Well,
but
let me ask you this. Where did this meeting take place?
we met up in Ehrenberg. I think it's in California, technically.
Okay.
It's right on the border.
I'm sorry, what was that?
It's right on the border
Of,
of California and Arizona.
okay. And how much later was this meeting? Was this weeks later, days later, when you met in Ehrenberg from the incident in the park in your car?
I would say it was about a month later.
Okay. So you didn't physically see him for about a month, but you spoke every day on the phone?
Yes,
nearly every
almost every day.
Okay. And as a result of those conversations, well, let me ask you this, because we talked about some Mormon officials coming to your home. Did that begin after this incident of oral sex in the park?
Yes,
Okay. But was that also before you went to Ehrenberg?
yes.
Okay. What were these, I say Mormon officials, but are these what we would call missionaries?
Yes.
How often would these missionaries come to your home?
I think they came on average 2 times a week.
And what went on when they came to your home?
The first time they came, I think they had made an appointment. They invited me to church every week. They have a system in the Mormon church when you're introducing somebody to the church for the first time. They're called discussions, and there's a discussion you take first, and then second, third, and on, which sort of introduces you to the church, how it was founded, truths that they believe in.
Okay. Let me ask you, as part of this, these meetings and this process, these meetings you were having with the missionaries, and I brought up earlier the vow of chastity. Did they speak to you about that?
No. Not that I recall.
Okay. When did you learn of the vow of chastity, to your recollection?
I think actually prior to my baptism, those things were briefly explained to me. They're young men, so they didn't really get into detail.
Okay. So, from your perspective, since you've been there, describe for us Ehrenberg. Is this a big town? Was there a particular reason why you were going there? What was the point of meeting in Ehrenberg?
Yes, the point was so we could spend time together, and it was a halfway point, so he didn't have to drive all the way to California, because he hadn't planned to come out to California until the following month, and I'd never been to Arizona, so I wasn't even thinking of going to Arizona, but Ehrenberg was about halfway.
Okay. And what was the plan? What were you, from your impression, what were you going to do in Ehrenberg?
We were going to hang out, and we'd talked extensively over the month, so I thought there would be more conversation, probably some intimacy that was hinted at heavily, so that was expected.
What do you mean the intimacy was heavily hinted at? Without telling me what he said, did he express a desire to be intimate with you again?
Yes.
I'm a little confused because it seemed like you had talked to us before about, after this incident in the park, how Mr. Alexander had expressed some misgivings about what happened. Did he express those misgivings before meeting you in Ehrenberg?
No, after that,
Objection.
those,
That's a question.
She hasn't even got a word out of her mouth.
Said no.
Ask another question.
You were going to Ehrenberg with the idea that, at least partially, that some intimate encounters might take place.
yes.
And Mr. Alexander never expressed any misgivings about those encounters occurring.
No,
Right.
that was kind of the purpose of the trip.
Okay. And by intimate encounters, what, to your understanding, were you expecting, at least from the sexually speaking?
Maybe more of the same as before, but nothing further than that. And that's kind of pretty far, but nothing beyond that.
Okay, so at this point in time, based on what you told us, it's our understanding that you had not had penile vaginal intercourse with Mr. Alexander.
No.
Is that correct? Okay. And it would also be our understanding that you had not had anal sexual intercourse with Mr. Alexander. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Tell us about Ehrenberg. Did you share one hotel room, or did you each have your own room?
We had one motel room.
Okay. And when did you arrive in Ehrenberg?
I got there later than him because I had to work, and so I arrived late at night. And
Okay. Was this Friday night? Was this Saturday night?
I think it was either Thursday or Friday night. I don't remember my exact schedule, but
Well, let me ask you this. How many nights were you to spend in Ehrenberg?
2.
Okay. Tell us what happened when you arrived.
When I arrived, he he came to the door and let me in, and then brought me over to bed, and we just started kissing.
Okay. I assume then that he was already in the room.
Yes, he got the room.
Okay. You said you started kissing. Was there conversation first, or did it immediately lead to kissing?
No, we had some conversation over the phone on the way there.
Okay.
So when I arrived, it was physical right away.
Okay. And we talked earlier, I mentioned earlier how kissing could mean different things. Could be the friendly to the passionate. What sort of kissing was this?
Passionate.
Was he attempting to remove your clothing?
Yes, we both were taking off our clothes, I think.
Okay. At this point in time, was this level of intimacy something that you felt comfortable with?
At this point, I was a little more comfortable with it because we had been talking for a long time, and I felt like I knew him better. And also, I don't think I was as nervous because it wasn't the first time that we were like that.
Okay. In your mind, was this supposed to be a romantic weekend, if you will?
Yes.
Did it turn out to be that?
Not too much romance. It wasn't everything I was expecting, but I didn't have high expectations. But we didn't connect, really, like we did on the phone.
Judge, do we want to?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m., please remember the admonition. For your planning purposes, we will not have court this Thursday. You will be here tomorrow, Wednesday, but no court on Thursday. Have a nice evening. You are excused.
Please stand for the jury.
Please be seated. You may step down. All right, council, is there anything else for today? All right.
Good night.